Welcome everybody, I am a music nerd here, and in today's video we're going to be continuing our Left Turn series as I will break down the 2000 Radiohead album Kid A and how they went from traditional guitar rock to EDM music. Before I get into it, if you enjoy the content in the video, hit the like button down below and hit the subscribe button as well. If you're a return subscriber, hit the notification bell to be alerted for new content. I upload videos every Monday and Thursday. So where do you go when you're basically hailed as the next great rock band? That's where Radiohead was after they released OK Computer. They received Grammy Awards, critical acclaim, and some have hailed it as probably the greatest album of all time. With those monumental expectations, your next album has to be better, right? Radiohead's greatest blessing ended up being their greatest curse, because in between OK Computer and Kid A, it was basically hell for them.
Personally speaking, it was like, there's a cliche you have in films, especially 70s films, I can't remember one in particular, where you have a character and they walk into a room full of mirrors, about 100 mirrors, but they're all reflecting on each other, so you get about like 5,000 of you. That's what was going on for me personally. So there was just a lot of sorting out to do, really. We'd worked together for so long that we needed to go away and rebuild something else, you know?
The rock scene had changed dramatically in the UK, and Radiohead felt that they were just keeping up with the Joneses. After the commercial success of OK Computer, the members of Radiohead suffered severe burnout. Tom York himself became ill, describing himself as completely unhinged and a complete fucking mess. Instead of celebrating their success, this was a time when they began to question everything and almost broke up the band. Bassist Colin Greenwood said, "We felt we had to change everything. There were other guitar bands there trying to do similar things. We had to move on." Tom York even stated that our next album had no chance of having any melodies. "I just want rhythm. All melodies to me were pure embarrassment." Damn. Tell 'em how you really feel, Tom. And all this media pressure had begun to weigh on the band, especially York, who suffered from writer's block. He soon found himself annoyed writing guitar songs and felt that the mythology of rock music had run its course. So straying away from guitar rock, he began to immerse himself into the depths of electronic music, but not by going to the clubs and listening to EDM bangers. York began to develop an infatuation with slower, intelligent techno. Developed by artists such as Aphex Twin and Autechre. York stated, "It was refreshing because the music was all structures and had no human voices in it, but I felt just as emotional about it as I ever felt about guitar music." Feeling inspired, he wrote the song Everything in Its Right Place, which ended up being the opener to Kid A. The rest of the band members were worried about the early developments of the new project. They didn't just want this album to just be random digital experimentation or art rock that was too pretentious. The band also found it difficult to use electronic instruments and techniques collaboratively. But when they recorded Everything in Its Right Place, it became the pivotal point for where the album began to go.
On Kid A was the process of everything breaking down over time. So what we basically did,
I'm good at that.
We reduced everything to a pile of rubble and ashes. And the first thing that came out, and it was about, we were in this, so we'd been doing this for 6 months, and we were in this big old house in the middle of the Gloucestershire countryside. And Tom did Everything in Its Right Place with Nigel. And it was like, wow. And that was the first thing, and the rest of us weren't involved with that. and the recording of that, and it was just like, well, that's beautiful. So you kind of you shed all that stuff.
But the weird thing is that, of course, you do that, and that then you go back to what you've got, and you realise you've actually got already 3/4 of the way down, and you didn't realise. You just need like a linchpin thing, which sort of brings everyone into focus, and they go, oh, okay, I get it.
This was the first time that Radiohead began to use less guitar instruments and more electronic instruments, manipulating the recordings heavily with Pro Tools and Cubase. York described his writing as basically cutting up words and phrases, and some of them at random cliches. This was very similar to the process that David Bowie had when he was making his Berlin trilogy in the 70s. Take a look at the song, the national anthem. Which combines a repetitive bass line that has developed in the direction of jazz music. The free jazz section of the song was described as a brass band marching into a brick wall. And as the section develops more and more, you can hear the chaos. York's purpose for this album was to use words in untraditional ways. He was not only inspired by jazz musicians such as Charles Mingus, Alice Coltrane, and Miles Davis, but he was also inspired by abstract hip-hop acts such as DJ Crush, and also influenced by Remain in Light and Bjork. But even though the lyricism is quite experimental, they do reveal the stress and vulnerability that York was going through in between OK Computer and Kid A. The song How to Disappear Completely was inspired by their tour with REM, and recalled the story of Michael Stipe, who advised York to release tour stretch by repeating to himself, "I'm not here, this isn't happening," which is a prominent lyric in the song. The refrain of the song Optimistic features the lyric, "Try the best you can is good enough." This was basically York self-assuring himself that everything was going to be alright after that chaotic period in his life. But the center of this album, and arguably the most popular song, is the song Idiotech. About the closest to a club banger that Radiohead has probably ever recorded. The song experiments with found sounds and sampling, while also featuring repetitive lyrics. Although at the time when it was released, most diehard Radiohead fans didn't know what to make of this song, but now it has become one of their most popular songs, played in almost every concert that they do. Now you can imagine when Kid A was released that a lot of people were scratching their heads. A lot of people remarked that it was commercial suicide. I mean, they didn't even release any teaser singles or music videos to promote it. They were one of the first major acts to use the internet as a promotional tool. The album was made available to stream and was promoted by short animated films featuring music and artwork. In fact, they encouraged bootlegging of the album. It was shared on file sharing services and was leaked ahead of release, showing that Radiohead was not only ahead of the curve in terms of music, but where the music business was heading. They would later use another innovative tactic to promote their album when they released In Rainbows 7 years later. But despite that, the album still debuted at number 1, further cementing Radiohead as probably the premier rock act at the turn of the century. But still, its appreciation for the album really didn't catch on until later in the decade, when it was announced on multiple publications that it was #1 album of the 2000s decade. Kid A has also been praised by fellow musicians. David Byrne once said, "What was really weird and very encouraging was that Kid A was popular. It was a hit. It proved to me that the artistic risk paid off, and music fans sometimes are not stupid." And not only it was the most important album of their career, it became one of the most important influential albums of the entire millennium. No other rock band had fully embraced electronica this successfully prior to Radiohead. Look at the rock scene now. It's gotten to a point where using electronic instruments is pretty much a requirement. Kid A is the ultimate rock anomaly. And a band had veered so far away from commercialism that actually made them more popular. And that's what makes Kid A great left turn album. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think about Radiohead's Kid A. Also, if you have any suggestions as to other left turn albums that I should cover, let me know in the comments section. YouTube recommends checking out these two videos after this one. Anyways, till next time, peace.